I would like to welcome you to today. So I'm just going to do a quick overview for the guests that are on today so we know who you are and what amazing knowledge you are going to be sharing with us today. I'm wanting to welcome all the guests on board today. We're going to have it's lining up to be a very insightful conversation on menopause and brain health. So I'm super excited. If you haven't met me before, my name is Vicki Jamieson. I am a Kiwi, but I live in Melbourne with my family. I'm a natural anti-aging specialist, specializing in skin health and also menopause, helping women transition. So I also do triathlon. You're going to find out about Dr. Shaun. So I have lots of common interests, not quite to the expertise of Dr. Shaun. So it is my absolute pleasure that Dr. Shaun is joining us today, and I'm going to read her bio because it is very impressive. So Dr. Shaun is a board-certified neuroradiologist for over 30 years. She's a veteran of the United States Air Force and the founder of the Vitality MD, where she supports women over 40 going through menopause transition and beyond. What makes Dr. Shaun so unique is the way she blends deep medical expertise with lived commitment to health and resilience. So she's not only a physician, she's also a 2 times Ironman triathlete, a 2 times ultra marathoner, and a 12 times marathoner. So that's impressive. She's been married for 36 years to her husband, who is a gastroenterologist, and is a mum to 2 adult sons in law school and a dog mum to 3 little dogs and 1 zany big dog, I hear, all variations of doodles. So a true testament to stamina, balance, and long-term vitality. So today we'll be diving into some very topical areas. So we're going to touch on how menopause impacts brain health, cognition, and mood, and why GLP is such a buzzword and hot topic right now, and how we can naturally activate that and how that helps with brain health as much as weight and some of the other conditions that we are concerned about. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Shaun so we can get into some topics.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm very honored to be here and appreciate the kind words. And this is a very important topic. Menopause is something that, in college and medical school, we really didn't think too much about. But you can bet there's a lot of thoughts going into menopause nowadays. And I think that the world is becoming a little bit more educated on what goes on in menopause and the support that women need.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a whole generation of us women now that we're very asking questions a lot more too, which is great to find out how we can help ourselves through menopause, but also beyond that into a healthy next chapter, if you like, with vitality. So, Dr. Shaun, as a neuroradiologist with over 30 years of experience, you've probably noticed a lot of firsthand impacts from brain health side of things, cognition, memory, and all that. What has been your overall noticings on that or changes?
Well, it's one of those phenomena that kind of creeps up on women, and that is something called brain fog. And if you think about the organ in your body that requires the most energy, it's your brain. It's 3% of your body's weight, yet it expends 20% of your calories. And that's because, neuronal activity is very energy intensive. So, the brain's cells have, hundreds of thousands, if not a million or more mitochondria per cell, depending on who you ask. And that compares to, tens of thousands in the ovary, which is next in line in terms of mitochondrial density. And so when we age, our mitochondria become less efficient. Our mitochondria become damaged due to all of the free radicals that are produced in the making of that energy. They're right there. They're the factory they're not only the source of the energy, they're the source of the pollution that comes from making the energy. So they get damaged. And when that happens, they don't work as well. They self-destruct. Mitophagy is another form of the word autophagy. And there is a decrease in mental functioning because of that. As you can imagine, if you have less energy, less power in your cells, they're not going to work as well. And that kind of exhibits itself in terms of brain fog, forgetfulness, moodiness, snappishness, just feeling tired and foggy. And that's not something that you can see structurally in terms of MRIs or PET scans, but you definitely notice it and can feel it.
Right. So what have you noticed anything you mentioned about oxidative stress or that free radical damage in the brain? Is there anything that you have seen? I mean, I know with LifeVantage we have the NRF2 product, the Protandem. Do you see differences or hear from patients that exhibit changes once they start taking that product?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the first things you notice. In fact, in terms of brain injury that happens, like, you think of closed traumatic head injuries or chronic traumatic head injury, closed head injury, those things, the impact of the trauma is just the beginning of the problem with the brain. It's actually the inflammation that occurs afterwards. And so that oxidative stress is at the core of that inflammation and the brain damage that happens afterwards. So yes, reducing that oxidative stress to something that's more manageable has a huge impact on brain health. And one of the first things personally, when I started activating my NRF2 pathway and reducing my oxidative stress, one of the first things I noticed was like I felt like a fog was lifted. I felt more mentally sharp and in a better mood and more calm and emotionally stable. And it was just something that I didn't even expect, but big things happened. And I know my normal reaction. I know how I should have reacted to, say, a flat tire when I'm late for a meeting. And it didn't happen. And it was just like, who is this calm, collected woman? So that, is a huge benefit from reducing oxidative stress is definitely brain health.
So as far as aging goes, and obviously as we're menopausing, we're aging, that then ties in, doesn't it? So that links into um, not just cognition moving forward, but that whole moods and everything like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we have not only, the protanum nerve 2 that reduces oxidative stress by a number of pathways that a number of enzymes that it upregulates, but, we have the liquid collagen that increases two of those enzymes dramatically, superoxide dismutase and catalase by 2,700% and 202%. And those enzymes are critical in terms of brain health. And we don't have any studies on our collagen and brain health per se. We have, beautiful anecdotes of people whose brains came back online after, being, not functioning as well as they would have liked. And it's just a beautiful thing when you can naturally activate the enzymes that used to be in such an abundance when we were younger. And we gradually just get less and less of them, and we gradually become less and less brain able, and it's lovely
Yeah.
to turn that back on.
Yeah, so can you just explain for us the term activation that we're using here, as opposed to, I know a lot of people will have been familiar with supplementation and how we add in vitamins and antioxidants to our diet with either food or other supplements. How does activation, just quickly, differ from that?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. Supplementation is necessary in today's world because our foods are not as nutritionally replete as they were 50 or 100 years ago, because of our soil degradation. The microbes are being stripped from the soil due to farming and turning over the land and letting the sun, just we're not nurturing the soil bacteria, which create the vitamins and minerals that the plants absorb. So we're eating a broccoli that has 50%, less nutrients, magnesium, for example, in it. So we do find that people are deficient in magnesium. I think 70+% of the world is deficient in magnesium, and stress increases that magnesium burn. People are deficient, a large proportion of north of the Western societies are deficient in vitamin D3. There's many nutrients that we're deficient in. So we need to supplement. And, just because not only those specific nutrients, but generally broadly, vitamin A, D, K, E, vitamin C, the B vitamins, we're not getting enough in our foods, so that a multi-nutrient like a mineral and vitamin supplement is very, very helpful. But that just replaces something that's not there. That's what supplementation is. Activation is turning on a pathway that generates enzymes, which are your body's primary antioxidant defense. Not just enzymes, but collagen production, other things. But turning on the genetic factory that makes the RNA, that makes the protein that is in question. That's what activation is. It's flipping a switch that tells your DNA to start making, RNA to start making the proteins, and then you have more of what was more dormant or less actively produced. That's what activation is, turning on the production of.
Great. So we can basically turn on our genes and they become more active like when we were 20. Yay. So how does, I know GLP-1 is a bit of a buzzword at the moment. How does GLP-1, activating our own natural GLP-1, come into play as far as menopause and our brains aging, that type of thing go?
Well, it's so important because as we age, in menopause particularly, we're losing our estrogen. And, estrogen actually has one of the things that it does that we don't talk about that much is it does decrease appetite somewhat. So decreasing estrogen means increasing appetite by and of itself. So that is one thing. The other thing that happens in menopause is we become insulin resistant. And so we start to gain weight. We store fat in our muscles, store fat in our fat cells, and we get intramyocellular fat. That's muscle that has fat depositions in it. Think of a marbled steak. Well, our muscles become marbled, and that is not best for being healthy and being able to be strong and healthy. So the other thing is we have less muscle as we get older, and that's called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia literally means in Latin lack of muscle or a paucity of muscle, and we lose about almost 1% of muscle every year after age 40. Muscle is your fat burning engine. Obviously, it's where your calories are burned, and besides your brain, obviously, but your muscles are insulin sinks. So whenever you contract, you have high elevated blood sugar. If you move your muscles, that's going to lower your blood sugar because glucose is going to go into the muscles to provide the energy. So lack of insulin sensitivity, loss of muscle, loss of estrogen. Just naturally in menopause, we store fat in our belly. We get sleep disruptions as we enter menopause, maybe due to hot flashes, maybe due to hormonal fluctuations, cortisol. When you lose sleep, you can gain weight because a night of disrupted sleep can lead to up to 400 more calories consumed the following day. That can add up over time. So we have mood disruptions. We also have a declining gut health microbiome. We have loss of our L cells in our gut, the health and activity of those. We have declining health and robustness of our pancreatic islet cells that produce the insulin. So there's a whole host of reasons why women gain weight in menopause and why activating the GLP-1 is beneficial, because we have a decline in our production of GLP-1, decline in GLP-1 activity. And there's two ways to go about that. You can bring in synthetic GLP-1 from the outside and flood the zone, which turns off your own natural production, which was not enough to begin with. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because why would you want to turn off something that's not working as well as it should? You want to turn it back on. That's the other approach. We can activate the GLP-1 production naturally and increase it by threefold. And that at least the whole host of benefits of increasing GLP-1 without the side effects of, you know, basically nutrient deficiency, muscle loss, and all the things that can happen with synthetic GLP-1 overload.
Fantastic. That's really important to know, that difference between the overload and the receptors that don't get stimulated, whereas activating our own GLP-1 increases that ability to create more or have that impact the result more with the receptor sites being involved. Is that correct?
Yeah, but it's what's really interesting is, you know, when you overload the system with GLP-1 synthetically, yes, the receptors become less receptive to it because it's like, well, when there's just the right amount or not enough, the cells put plenty of receptors out there. Like we want to get it if it's here. We want to make sure we get it. You know, oh, there's one. Let's get it. I haven't seen one in a while. Let me make another receptor just in case one floats by over here and I've been over here. So we've got pop, 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 all these receptors when you have a natural GLP-1 balance. If you start flooding the body with synthetic GLP-1, well, those receptors get lazy. They're like, well, there's GLP-1 everywhere. Why would I spend money and, well, not money, but currency, cellular money, energy, making another GLP-1 receptor? In fact, I'll just, you know, disintegrate this one over here and disintegrate this one over here because I don't need all these because I got plenty of GLP-1 with just this one little receptor. So you downregulate receptors. Okay, that's the problem. What the beautiful thing about the current mind-body system that we're talking about is it does dual activation. It not only activates GLP-1 production, it activates GLP-1 receptor production. So it's a symphony.
So do you notice a difference with the ladies that you work with, your MD foundation thing, a Vitality Foundation? Do you notice the gut health changing as well as brain differences? So unexpected effects from the mind
Definitely.
body?
Definitely. Yeah. I've had, you know, these are anecdotal reports. I mean, I'm doing
Yeah.
any studies on this right now, but it's just people notice that their bathroom habits become much more healthy. You know, there's a stool chart. It's a Bristol stool chart, and it measures stools all the way from hard little, you know, balls that you know, like a rabbit to completely liquid. And there it goes from 1 to 6. And, you know, normal healthy stools are like 3 to 4. You want it that way. And you can look at the Bristol stool chart to get an idea of what that would look like. And people go from 1 to 2 or 5 to 6 to 3 to 4. And it's a beautiful thing. And so, yes, gut health definitely improves.
Yeah. And that gut brain relationship too, then that links into that is, so I would work with women who would say once they're more regular in their bathroom habits, their moods are much better. They feel less congested. They can think more clearly. They haven't got a lot of fog. Now, this is obviously just what I see in clinic. Is that what you would see? Do you get that reported?
Yeah, there's a definite gut brain connection. There's this big, you know, nerve that goes from your brain to your intestines directly, and yes, there's definitely a connection. And just the general, you know, as if you're bloated, if you haven't gone to the restroom in days, if you're constipated, you're gonna be grouchy.
Yeah,
You're gonna be
exactly.
not yourself. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they say they're directly related and they are indirectly related.
Yeah, great. So things like leaky gut and conditions like that, and I know we're not talking about conditions, but if you have had a history of, not the most ideal gut environment, um, is mind body the best option? What would be your opinion on, like working through a protocol? That's probably a little bit more in depth than we can get into here, but
Oh, I definitely think that approaching the whole of gut health is important. I definitely think NRF2 activation is foundational because reducing oxidative stress and increasing your own endogenous antioxidant production has such far-reaching benefits in every cell. And your gut cells are one of the most quickly replicating cells. They are replaced very rapidly in just a few days. In fact, that's why, for instance, chemotherapy has such terrible GI side effects because, you know, it kills the poison in chemotherapy kills the most metabolically active cells, and that's presumably the cancer cells. Well, number 2 in that line is your gut cells, and
Mm,
So that's why people get all kinds of gut symptoms. So when you're reducing that, cellular oxidative stress and increasing the function of your cells, your gut cells are one of the first to benefit from that. The other thing is, you know, um, looking at the microbiome, the microbiota of the intestine. You want to maybe supplement with, and I use the word supplement because you may not have enough healthy gut bacteria. So you can supplement with those healthy gut microbes. And then you want to make sure that you're giving your gut the food that the microbes that are healthy like to eat. For instance, fiber. And if you replace the beneficial gut microbes and you feed them what they love, they're going to populate, they're going to crowd out any unhealthy bacteria that are in there. So um, we have a prebiotic that does that. It feeds the good microbes. And then the mind body system itself is a
mm.
two-part system. The second part being a tremendous prebiotic that is specifically formulated to feed the type of bacteria that produce the short chain fatty acids that feed the L cells. So you can come at it from a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah, yeah, that's really important. So how does that link into stress? Because I know the gut and when you're stressed, your gut sometimes gets a little bit irritated. And with good fiber and you're rebuilding that type of thing. How does stress impact and the and can the mind body help with the stress load or adaptation of stress?
I think it's more of a general whole body kind of thing. We all know that when we're anxious, we feel it in our gut. That's just there's a physiologic reason for that, and that has to do with that vagus nerve that goes from your brain to your gut. So they are directly related, and just balancing the health of the cell um, will and increasing the health of the brain through that mitochondrial benefit, the reduced oxidative stress. The GLP-1 is of in itself a neuroprotective compound or peptide. It actually helps regenerate neurons. So
Mm.
that is extremely important for neurological health.
Yeah, so you mentioned about the lowering of estrogen, in the
Right.
brain. And so if we go back to that for a minute and think about stress, does that impact higher cortisol levels? Is that impacted by results for mind body? Like, does it just take longer for some women to see results?
I
You
think
found?
yes, because it's going to, you're going to start where you start, So if you're, just a mess from a hormonal standpoint, you're not adding 100% of what you need from the get-go. You're turning on your body's production. So it's going to take time. It's going to increase it a little bit, each week. And by 12 weeks, we have our clinical study that shows that we, get tremendous results. We get an average of up to 25 pounds lost, 27% visceral fat, and that's that unhealthy, metabolically active, damaging, visceral fat around your organs.
Yeah.
So it takes time, and I think the more mess you are at the beginning, the longer it may take. But then again, the more benefit you stand to gain.
Yeah, that's right. It just takes longer. It's not a quick fix, is it, turning back on your healthy gene production. So just on bone health, have you noticed any difference with bone health because obviously as we get older in menopause, bone health, like muscle health, it becomes a priority. And I think muscle health, you mentioned there a little bit, but there's a lot more research going on how that is helping with healthy longevity. So that's
Mhm.
important in menopause, but equally bone health because of that lower estrogen, because of the bones breaking down and creating osteoporosis. Does mind body help with, or once GLP-1 is activated, does that strengthen bones, or is there a better way, or do we combine it?
Well, first of all, it's going to indirectly increase bone mass because it increases muscle protein synthesis. So it increases your muscle by an average of over 6% in our clinical trial. And when you have stronger muscle, each contraction is going to pull on the bone. That's where muscle attaches via ligaments. And that indirectly boosts osteoblast activity. It's going to increase bone strength because you're stressing the bone more with increasing muscle. It also influences calcium metabolism, and that can impact bone health. The fact that it's reducing inflammation, GLP-1 is very anti-inflammatory, and inflamed bone doesn't work as well. As far as any clinical studies, I don't think we measured, I know we didn't measure bone mass in terms of our clinical study, but I would anticipate, especially based on the indirect action of muscle increase, that we would find that it's very beneficial to to bone. But I will tell you that nerve 2, the actual pathway, nerve 2, is very much beneficial toward osteoblast activity and bone healing. So
Ah, that's
definitely
really
combining the nerve 2 with the GLP-1 would be a win-win.
yeah. And what about collagen? Is that
Oh gosh, yes, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah. Collagen absolutely impacts bone health. And we've seen, anecdotes of disc bases increasing, which normally doesn't happen because, as we age, our discs tend to dehydrate. But, if you increase collagen production, collagen is in those discs. And so it does make sense that discs could rehydrate, replump. And so it's beneficial all around. GLP-1 is cardioprotective, it's neuroprotective, neuroregenerative. It helps with, your obviously losing weight, insulin sensitivity. There's so many benefits to having your natural GLP-1 production optimized.
Yeah, that's a full round of holistic wellness right there, isn't it? So if you were to build, actually, I just want to touch on your Ironman and your athlete um, history because I think it's speaks to a lot of resilience that we have mindset wise, and coming into menopause, it's a great way to, sort of base yourself. What kind of things, based on your resilience as an athlete, could you inspire women with? What are just two things that you could inspire women with that they can put into their everyday life? Like, not everyone's going to go and do a marathon, but
Well, I have one thought that was in my mind when I was kind of at the end of the marathon, twice, at the end of the 140.6 miles. I'm probably mile 18, and it's like, 10 o'clock at night. And it was this, it was not, am I going to finish? It's when am I going to finish? It's not if, it was when. And that is, we need to know that we we have everything in our arsenal that we can do. We can make ourselves healthy. So it's not if you're going to make yourself healthier. It's how are you going to make yourself healthier, and how soon. So that's definitely a tip. And also, when you're approaching something that's challenging, whether it's a health event or not, just frame it differently. When I was out there for 14 plus hour day, I didn't think about my 14-hour day when I got in the ocean and started swimming. I just thought, I'm going to go for a nice little swim here. And then when I got on the bike, I thought, I think, it's a beautiful day. I think I'll go for a bike ride. And when I got off the bike, I was like, oh, I'm so glad to be off that bike. I think I'll just kind of loosen up by going for a little jog. And so, you just use those mindset enhancements to make every challenge manageable.
yeah, I think that's really key when we go through menopause. And sometimes we have these body challenges that we don't particularly like, but it's a bit like sitting on the bike for however many
Mm.
Ks you were
Six
sitting on
hours.
there. And so, you know what? It's just, yeah, just changing that mindset and breaking it up. So, yeah, very valuable information, and I can relate. So, in finishing off, if you were to build a menopause vitality kit set, if you like, what would be your top three products from LifeVantage that you would include in your toolkit?
Well, first I'd start with the non-products, which is hydration, movement, and sleep. Those
Yeah.
are critical. But definitely Nerf 2, definitely collagen, because we lose so much collagen after age 20. So Nerf 2, collagen, and if optimal brain, cardiovascular health, and body composition is in your wish list, then I would add GLP-1 as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Shaun, for sharing your wisdom and science, which I love, and lived experience. I think everyone today on the call has got something new from that. So powerful insights, and how we can implement those products specifically for menopause. So there's so much more we could talk about, but I do value your time and appreciate so much you spending your Friday night with us here in Down Under.
Oh, it was such an honor. And yeah, thank you so much. These are great questions. Really appreciate it. I did see a question in the chat that said, if you lose muscle, can you get it back? And absolutely you can. You just have to do resistance training and do progressive resistance training. Obviously, within your capabilities, start where you can. And you need to make sure you're eating enough protein as you do that. But yes, you can definitely gain muscle. In fact, I've gained 4 pounds of muscle since December. Yay!
Awesome. Yeah, so that's that whole vitality thing is just being stronger. We can be stronger women, ladies, today. We can be stronger as we get older, and this is not the end of the story in menopause. This is the beginning of the next chapter. And welcome to being a stronger woman. And a man, you can support your woman being stronger with all this knowledge too. So thank you
Men
all.
have to live through menopause as well.
That's
If they're
right.
married to a woman going through.
That's exactly right. So thank you, Dr. Shaun, and thank you everyone for coming on to hear this wonderful knowledge. And please pass that on to all your loved ones, girlfriends, probably not mums, but aunties, maybe, sisters, everyone you can think of to help everyone live with vitality.
Great call, ladies. Thank you so, so much.